Guys, how are we doing? Welcome to story number 2 with John Hammond, an elite Brotherhood member. How's it going, John?
Very good, thank you. Yeah, life is good. Life is controlled and calm.
Love it. I'm loving the man shed.
In amongst the chaos.
Yeah, love the man
Oh,
shed.
yeah. Got to have a man shed, mate.
Right. Who is John Hammond, mate? Who is John Hammond?
John Hammond is a 51-year-old paramedic with the ambulance service, a dad of 2 daughters, age 8 and one's to be 6 very shortly. Married for 10 years, live in Saffron Walden, lovely little part of northwest Essex. Nearest city is Cambridge, so joys there. A man who pretty much, once family life had hit me, lost my way, shall we say, and literally was firefighting my way through life, reacting to everything normally badly, and just stumbling through life, shall we say.
Where do you think it, when you look back at your past, where do you think maybe it went wrong? So how were your 20s? Were you focused in your 20s? Were you just having a good time in your 20s?
Just having a good time in my 20s and in my 30s. Just sort of, just going with the flow. Enjoying being single, just enjoying life. Not doing too much to excess, but, enjoying a few drinks and just thinking that, I've got years ahead of me. Life is miles away, nothing can touch me, and don't need to worry about anything, basically.
Do you know, when I was 20, I think I must have been about 20, I think it was about 23 when I first joined the Marines. I used to look at people that were in their 40s and think, God, they're fucking old, mate. I've got ages to go to that, right? Ages.
Yeah. Oh, they're ancient. They're ancient. I'll never get like that.
I've got loads of time to waste.
Yeah.
I wonder how many years we waste in our 20s in a comatose state from being boozed or on a drug binge, or sitting around doing fuck all.
Oh, that's a scary concept, scary thought, to think how many hours and days and months you have just lost doing nothing.
It's mad, isn't it? How was the 30s?
30s were good. Bit more sort of controlled, sort of bought my first house and things like that, and but I was starting to be in a job that I no longer enjoyed, and I'd started off working for British Rail when they still existed in the late 80s, early 90s. Right. Loved my first few years there as a young lad, with working with just loads of guys and just all blokes together of all ages. But I progressed through the company and we went through privatization, and I finally ended up in an office doing office work in King's Cross. So commuting to London every day on the train. And that just finished me off. I'd had enough of that. I was out the house at 6 o'clock in the morning and not getting back till 7, 8 o'clock at night.
So at the time,
5 days a week.
You didn't have a family then, though, did you?
No, I was still single then, and I decided I've got to change something. So I'd always been interested in first aid, working on the railway, and so I thought, I wonder if I could become a paramedic, join the ambulance service. Didn't make the whole jump straight away, dipped my toe in as a volunteer community responder, did that for a few years, fell in love with it, and just decided to up and change. And that was in 2004, and here I am, still here today.
Do you ever look back and think, I could have taken a different direction? I wonder what life would have been like if I went down this path or this path. Was it always just paramedic, or was it just like, I don't know, let's take the first thing that kind of comes to me?
No, I was looking to change my career within the railway industry, and I was going to go back onto what we call the footplate, back onto the trains, and I'd been accepted for driving, and I was going to go train driving And at the same time I got accepted for that, I got accepted for as paramedic as well. And I thought about it really hard and sort of like, no, I think the rail industry that I really fell in love with was gone. It had modernized, you know, it had changed so much. And I was sort of like, no, let's have a complete change. And
Well,
just really fancied it.
do you reckon, John, at the time then, like in terms of the in terms of transitions, when you're going through all of this and then you're going to become a paramedic, how do you think you, in comparison to where you are today, where were you with your mental health and emotional state?
My mental health was struggling because I was single, and if I'll be honest, I didn't want to be single. I wanted to meet the right person, and I was sort of struggling on that respect, never meeting the right girl. And so it was a little bit of a struggle. So I think with the transition, I sort of just put it all to one side, literally just blanked that bit out and cracked on with the career change. And yeah, didn't sort of really think about it. But you know, you
What
do
was
that and they come back.
what was struggling in your head?
Struggling in my head was, you know, I am moving on. You know, I'm into my 30s now. Lots of my friends had all sort of like got married and started families, and you know, and I'm just sort of like bumbling along and not really finding anybody. And yeah, wanting a piece of that, I think.
Was there
Wanting
an
some
element,
family life.
was there an element that you felt like you were falling behind, slipping behind, and was going to be left
Yeah,
behind?
yeah, definitely. And you know, you were sort of thinking, you know, you're in your 30s. I'm crikey, before I blink, I'll be midway through my 30s and in my 40s, and starting to think it's not so much the same for a guy, I suppose, but you know, you do sort of think, am I leaving it a bit late for families and kids and that sort of thing? As has turned out, clearly I'm not. You know, I'm 51 now, and I've got a 6-year-old and 8-year-old. So
Love that.
it's but you do think it back then. And it does start to play on your mind.
Were you lonely?
Yes, yeah.
How do you handle being lonely?
You throw yourself into lots of hobbies, and yeah, a lot of hobbies. I suppose I think back, a lot of drinking as well.
Okay.
Not to the point it was a problem, but just a bit too much, a bit more than you should do, I think.
Yeah. It's a difficult it's a difficult place to be, isn't it? I think when you're lonely, I thought a lot more about this, and actually one of the triggers was they do the adverts with the older generation that have lost a partner and very lonely. And I was trying to, so a lot of people always ask me, how do I deal with being lonely? And I guess I've never really been lonely. I think I was lonely when I left the military for 3 years. You know, I think that's my only, when I left that and I went through the divorce, and I felt very alone, like, you know, in that respect. And I think that's the closest part that I got to that. And I think it's really struggle. I really struggle to want to show up being lonely. Is that something that maybe you felt?
Yeah, when I was lonely, I'd have days where I wouldn't get out of bed, perhaps, or just wouldn't go to things, wouldn't come out of the house. And you get to that, oh, I can't be bothered. You know, everyone else will be there with their couples and other halves, and I was thinking, oh, just leave it. It's not worth it. I can't be bothered. I won't go. And you end up missing out on things. You don't go to things.
How do you feel that becoming a paramedic shaped you?
It made me resilient to, well, at times it's made me resilient to a lot of the crap that goes on in life. And it really did open my eyes to how, geez, my life isn't that bad.
Okay. How did
And
it make you do that?
sorry.
How did it make you have that reflection?
Um, you go into so many places and people's lives, and when they're at the darkest moments in their lives, and you just sort of reflect on yourself and you think, I know I feel bad at times, but I've never got that bad. And then you think, no, I'm okay. I'm doing all right. Or, you know, you think your house house is untidy, and then you go into some of the properties we go into, and it's sort of like, man, my place is spotless. And
it's interesting, you know. I think I've never really looked at it like that, but there's something you just said there, and it was a case of you almost step into people's lives for what could be just a few minutes, but you get a feel of and an eye-opener into how all of these different people live. But actually, 1 minute somebody's life could have flipped within seconds, and you are there trying to save that life, right? And that must really put some level of perspective on you, on like what you've just said on your life. And you can't, like, I think we all think worst case scenario a lot of the time of that, I've got this going on, or I've got this going on, and then you come away from a shift and you might have had to resuscitate 3 or 4 people and actually brought them back to life. You might have actually lost a few people. That must actually play on the mind.
it does. It comes back at weird times sometimes, and like you say, you know, you can go to people and literally just turn their life around in seconds. One of the guys, sadly, he's no longer with us, but one bloke I went to a long time ago, who was having a heart attack. And when I get there, he's a guy I used to work with on the railway in my previous job, someone I know very well. And he went into cardiac arrest on me in the back of the ambulance. I brought him back 4 times.
Wow.
On the way to hospital. And that was on a Sunday afternoon. I resuscitated him 4 times, and then I went and had a cup of tea with him in his house on a Wednesday lunchtime.
Wow.
And he had another 10 years with us.
That must, because the ripple effects of that are huge. Like for me, for that another 10 years, that's another 10 years with his son or his daughter or his wife or his husband. And you get to play a huge part in that. Do you ever let that sink in?
You do, when it's someone you know. So with this guy, you know, that really does sink in. I still see his daughter today. And, you know, she's still forever grateful that, you know, I was the reason that Tony got to see her wedding, see his grandkids,
Huge.
and all of that. And that you might hear it now in my voice. Sorry, that pulls at the heartstrings sometimes.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, we do that for so many people we don't know, and we never see them again. And
Like,
you kind of just have to let that go.
that is like when you try and get your head around that, I mean, that is massive, right? Like you think about the impact that you have on so many people by saving their lives or getting them to safety or making them feel safe. And then you actually go away and you go, wow, I wonder how many lives you've saved in your career. I wonder how many ripple effects within that scenario that has changed. How many kids have been born from the fact that you've kept them alive? How many weddings have been seen? How many people have gone on to do other stuff that's helped other people? Like if you had a book or a catalogue, it would be huge on that ripple effects, right?
Yeah. And you think of the big ones, you know, the cardiac arrests and the resuscitations, but then the sort of like the semi big ones, you know, the heart attacks that you've gone to, and you've literally, you know, you've got there in good time and you've got them straight into the right hospital, and tickety boo, they've had their heart attack fixed and the blockage taken out and you know, the stent fitted in their heart. Add that sort of like strokes and people you got to quickly, or car accidents, and you've saved the bleeding and that sort of thing. Yeah, the ripple effect must be enormous. And when you've been in a long time, the people perhaps I've saved have had kids, and maybe now even they've had kids. So,
I mean, mate, I've never really thought about it, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do these stories, because actually, you know, I don't think many people like in the services realize just what an impact they make on people, right? And you think like the work that we've been doing with you, that, like, you know, we'll move on to your progress and development and why you come to us, but yeah, I've given you numerous kicks up the backside, right? And I'm quite blunt, and I've been really, really blunt with you in many occasions to stop feeling sorry for yourself. And I think, where do you think it went wrong with you? I don't know if that sounds right. Where do you think it went wrong in terms of you really needing support? And how did you recognize it?
Um, I probably needed support not long after becoming a dad. That really changed my life completely, and went through the initial weeks of complete and utter panic. Oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah.
And because no one, I don't care what courses you go on, no one can prepare you for it. The absolute bulldozer through your life that having children is. And then I let that bumble on for too long. And I suppose it was when COVID first started that I sort of came to you and started following you. So that would be early 2020. I can even remember where I was when I first started looking at your things.
Where were you?
I was on a night shift and I was sitting in Bishop Stortford ambulance station.
Fucking
when
Bel
I
Air ranting on.
No, I got recommended you by a very good friend, who did some of your programs. Bless him.
Who's that?
And Lee Styles.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, bit of a car crash is there, Lee. Sorry, Lee, if you're listening.
That's not all right. Pick him up there, John.
Yeah, no, I've tried kicking him, but my boot isn't as big as yours. But so yeah, and
you
sorry,
come
John.
across me, and what state were you in? So, like, you're becoming a dad, you're trying to cope with being a dad, you're trying to cope with your job. Like, do you feel like there was a lack of structure? Was there a lack of vision? Was there a lack of connection with yourself?
All of it. There was no structure, and didn't realize that until I looked back with your guidance and courses. One of the things that always sticks in my head is you'd spoken about it on a few things. When you're at school, you have a timetable. When you go to college, you have a timetable. Why can't we have a timetable for life?
Yeah.
Just for what you're doing this week,
Yeah.
and just putting things like that, simple structures in place, and simple things like what you want to try and do today. And then at the end of the day, you go back and you tick them off. And that just clears my head so much. It's sort of like, no, I've achieved the things I set out to achieve today, rather than beforehand. It was sort of like you get to the day, oh, I didn't do this. Oh, I didn't do that. Oh, bollocks, I've forgotten to do this.
Why is
And
that
just,
very important for you, John? Like, why for you is that important? Because some people will turn around and go, well, I just like to live day to day. I just like to just wake up and go with the flow. Do you, like, everybody's different, right? Like, in my head, I couldn't do that because there's too much chaos and stress. There has to be order. Maybe that's from the military or boarding school, I'm not sure. But why is it important to you to have that element of control?
because if I don't, I can easily waste time doing nothing, which is what I did 20 years ago. I've got to, I'm not pack everything in the day, but I've got to have achieved stuff during the day so that I don't feel like I've wasted it,
Yeah.
just doing nothing. Yeah, it's just, otherwise just wasting time. And if the wife says, oh, what have you managed, what have you done today? And you go, nothing.
It feels, doesn't it? Like, I often speak to a lot of guys, and it's like a lot of guys are really hard on themselves because they don't feel like they're achieving, and they don't feel like they're reaching milestones. And I think part of fulfillment is feeling like we're accomplishing something, even at the 1% level, right? Whether it's 100% or 1%, but feeling like we've achieved something at the end of each day makes, I think, every day kind of feel a little bit more meaningful. Like, where's our time, energy, and focus going? Right, it's going into this. Right, it feels meaningful now. Whereas I think we get caught. Would you agree that we get caught in that trap of that black hole of actually, well, I'm doing stuff, but I'm not actually really achieving anything.
Yeah, I've had times of that. And that's normally comes out of making too many plans, trying to do too much, and then not actually achieving any of it. So doing the little 1% really, really helps me. And just, and not doing too much in the day. I think in the journals we use, it's sort of like 3 things you're going to achieve today. And you try and do too much more, and you might not get one of them done. Whereas if you I found if I just set 3 or sometimes 4, I'll get them done.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes it a lot more realistic, right, to achieve. Why do you think at times you've struggled to show up?
Um, it's normally a snowball effect of things. So if I haven't, say like I didn't say if I didn't get up and show up for a morning routine, it will have been because I was perhaps late to bed the night before. That would have been because I wasn't organized. And, you know, there's just a snowball effect of little things that will then, if you don't nip it in the bud, will just get out of control. And other times, why have I not shown up? You know, I like the self-pity party. If I'm not careful. Not so much recently. I don't want another kick up the backside from JB. They're not very nice. But yeah, I don't know why I've not done that so much recently. It's hard to pinpoint, but yeah, you can.
Is it fair to say that maybe the process is actually kicking in?
Yes, and it's taken a long time.
Yep.
Or it takes longer than you think it's going to. And you've said that before. I've heard, you know, at least a year
Yeah.
for some of these processes to kick in. And I still haven't got it right yet, you know, but now I try every day. And if it doesn't go right, I don't beat myself up about it. It's like, that didn't go right. Why didn't it go right? Change it, try it again.
So I've got news for you that you never get there. like you've always got to evolve, right? I was just chatting to
no, you've got to change.
There's no end point here. And I think this is the thing that we all have to understand is like you keep going and you keep growing and you keep evolving until we stop breathing. And like when we stop breathing, that's game over. That's finished. And then what everybody gets is the legacy that you've left behind, right? Is the connection and the memories and the things that you've left to the girls. And it's like, and that's what it was all for. That you know, it was showing up for me first and foremost, but then actually it was about showing up for me to leave that legacy for everyone else around me. And I think that's what's important, right? And I think when you realize that you don't, it's not that you haven't reached the point, it's just that you're on this continuous journey where there's points after points after points after points where you keep going and you just don't stop. And you make that contract yourself for the rest of your life to go, I'm going to keep showing up into the day I die, even if I'm having a bad day, even if like I'm hitting a brick wall, even if people are on my back, even if something's happened, I've lost someone at the job. It's about showing up the next day over and over again, right? Dusting yourself down, which is one of the reasons that I think you've improved. Like it must be nearly 8 months since I've given you a rollick, and I haven't seen any pity party posts. So, no. I often think it's to change.
I haven't felt that way.
Yeah, that's good.
The pity party, you know, it's not that I haven't posted anything pity party. It's sort of like, or if I have felt that way, it's only lasted half an hour.
Flicking the switch. It's like so. We are all susceptible to feeling sorry for yourself. I do, like sometimes there's a pity party sometimes. So like, but it's the flick of the switch in here. When you flick that switch, it doesn't change. You flick it and you go straight away. Like, stop fucking feeling sorry for yourself. Okay, stop being a fucking little dickhead and get yourself out of your own fucking head. And I think the quicker you can do that, right, the more conditioned we are in our mentality and our mindset, the quicker we can flick that switch so it stays on. And we permanently are of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no. It's now easier to just sort of like stop, think, oh, whatever. And then just sort of like nothing's gonna change.
Yeah.
The only thing that you can change is you or how you perceive it, and how you deal with it. And you know, and I use that switch a lot in life now. It's the same with the news. That's been, don't even look at it. I speak on the phone to my dad, said, oh, do you see so-and-so on the news? I'm like, no, I don't watch the news anymore, Dad.
Small changes lead to big changes all of the time, right? And I think that's what you've done really well here. Okay, final question. if someone's listening right now, based on your own experience and your own journey about what you've been through, if you were to offer one piece of advice for that individual, what would it be?
Stop, think, breathe, and just remember, you're not alone. You can do it. You can change things. Doesn't matter what it is. It can be fixed. It's not too late. And just find someone to follow, find someone else who's been through it. Follow your courses, other courses, just remember that you're not alone and you can do it.
Amazing.
And you can change.
100% you can. 100%. John, thanks for taking the time to come on. Appreciate that.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Of many hundreds of stories to come, I'm sure. So I appreciate your time. Guys, let us know what you thought of this podcast. You can rate the podcast at the very end for me. Drop me a comment or an email, me@baldwinjames.com. If you feel like you've got a good story to come on with, then just drop me an email as well and let's get you on. Thanks for listening.